Priya, can you try to make Venkat also as a co-host? For some reason, I'm not able to do that.
I'll try. We
Priya,
also
you will be.
have access.
Yeah, but for some reason, I'm not able to get that. I didn't get that option. I have to check what is there now.
Yeah, I'm on my mobile, so probably I have limited access. Yeah, I don't have access.
Okay, now he's Venkat is gone. So Priya, you can take care of anyone who is in the waiting room to
Okay,
get in the call. Okay,
sure.
so let's start.
It is live on YouTube.
Yeah, I see that. Thanks very much. Okay, let's start. So good morning, everyone from Boston. We are delighted to have you all to join us for Ambedkar lecture series. ALS is dedicated to honoring the life and legacy of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, a visionary leader, social reformer, and champion of equality and justice. My name is Sanjay-Rekha, and it is a pleasure to be today's ALS moderator. About the lecture series, in commemoration of Dr. Ambedkar's invaluable contribution, Boston Study Group have curated a series of lectures that explores various aspects of his life, work, and ideology. Our esteemed speakers at Ambedkar Lecture Series will delve into topics such as caste annihilation, constitutional rights, gender equality, education, economic justice, and Dalit empowerment, and shedding light on the relevance of Dr. Ambedkar's teaching in today's context. The Boston Study Group, which is celebrating its 10th year anniversary, is a non-profit organization registered with the IRS. Based in the New England, USA, we are an Ambedkarite organization dedicated to creating a just and equitable society. We organize study groups, monthly meetings, lecture series like this one, and other social activities and workshop on the cost in the Boston area university to support our mission. Our members include individuals, families, students, scholars, academics, and workers who share our vision of equality and upliftment. We focus on creating support structure and working with students from historically marginalized backgrounds. We are inspired by figures who have worked for human welfare, from Buddha, Sant Ravidas, Savitribai, Jyotiba Phule, Periyar, and Dr. Ambedkar. So we have Advocate Nikhil Sanjay-Rekha Adsule as our speaker today. Just to give a brief introduction about him, he is a senior research fellow at IIT-Delhi, currently pursuing PhD in humanities. He teaches courses on gender and caste economics and history. His master's in law from Tata Institute of Social Science, where he was awarded the best candidate in fieldwork with the Institute's trophy and medal. His master's in women and gender studies from IGNOU Delhi. He also served as advocate Bombay High Court, faculty and coordinator at Bharti, Government of Maharashtra. He was visiting faculty at University of Mumbai in Department of Political Science, Ambedkar Thoughts and Women and Gender Studies Department of Law. He was faculty at Yashoda Pune, it is a Government of Maharashtra India for UPSC, and reviewer of books and guest editor for Penguin International Publication. He is also working as Dr. Ambedkar International Fellow in Ministry of Social Justice and Senior Member Committee on Dr. Ambedkar, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. His papers are published in multiple reputed publications. He has given presentation in various international institutes, including Harvard School of Divinity, USA, Europe, Portugal, King's India Institute, King's College London, University of Texas Austin, Center of Dewey Studies in Illinois University, USA. His profile reads, to fight for the right without questions or pauses. Questions of genderless, casteless, classless, and humanitarian Begumpura. And he quotes Baba Sahib's life should be greater rather than long. So, with passion, patience, and perseverance. A warm welcome, Nikhil. His title will be The Earth Rests on the Rebel's Palm, the Radical Genealogy of Shivaji, Phule, Ambedkar, and Sathe. Our guest speaker will be involving us in a valuable learning and information for 35 to 45 minutes, followed by 30 minutes of questions and answer session. So, Nikhil, please take over.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Sanjay sir. Thank you, Boston Study Group, and thank you, ALS, for giving me this opportunity to present my deliberations here in front of esteemed scholars. And also today, it's 9th May. It's also very important because 109 years ago, on 9th May 1916, Dr. Ambedkar published his first scholarly thesis, Caste in India, at an anthropological seminar, Columbia University. So this day, today, 9th May, is also historically important. And today I'm giving the talk, so I feel more elated. So without any ado, I feel that we should just start with our topic. So but the title of my presentation today is The Earth Rests on the Rebel's Palm, the Radical Genealogy of Shivaji, Phule, Ambedkar, and Sathe. So I'm deliberately using these words in a singular manner, and you will at the end of the presentation come to understand why I'm using them. So in the classical cosmologies that defined the ancient world, our earth was always a burden carried by the divine. To the Greeks, it was on the shoulder of the Atlas. To the Vedic tradition, it was a thousand-headed serpent, which we popularly know as Sheshnag in the Bhagavad Purana. These myths served a specific political purpose. They suggested that the world is held up by forces above us, or the forces which are hidden from us. These forces we can never hope to touch, let alone change. But in the 1940s, and especially 2nd March 1958, in the slums of Bombay, now we know as Mumbai, a Dalit left folk poet, Comrade Annabhu Sathe, committed a magnificent heresy. So he says in Marathi, I would like to say his quote in Marathi, and then I will translate for our audience in English. हे जग, ही पृथ्वी शेषाच्या मस्तकावर नसून दलितांच्या तळहातावर तरलेली आहे. पारंपरिक धार्मिक मूल्यांना, पुराण कथांना छेद देणारं हे ऐतिहासिक विधान हे लोकशाहीर अण्णाभाऊ साठे यांनी 2 मार्च 1958 ला केलं होतं. So what does this Marathi quotation by Comrade Annabhau Sathe on 2nd March 1958 says? The earth is not balanced on the head of Sheshnag. It rests on the palms of the workers. See, with that one sentence, Sathe didn't just write a poem. He completed a 400-year-old radical genealogy. So basically, he shifted the locus of power from celestial to muscular. And today, on 9th May, we are all here to trace that palm's history. From 17th century peasant sovereignty of Shivaji Maharaj, which we popularly known as Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, to the 19th century intellectual strike of Mahatma Jyotirao Phule, to the 20th century constitutional revolution of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Myself, Nikhil Sanjay-Rekha Adsule, and today I want to show you how this rebel's palm didn't just hold the earth, but it built the very foundation of the modern Indian democracy. So let's begin at the moment when the serpent was dethroned. So friends, as Baba Sahib Ambedkar always says, so history which we are taught is often a history of shadows, of kings who ruled by divine rights and gods, and who held the world on their heads. But today we stand on a very different ground. We stand on the epistemology of rebel's palm. So let's try to understand what is this ontology of palm. To understand this genealogy, it matters a lot. And why it matters, and if it matters, we must look closely at the symbolism of the palm itself. So in the grammar of subaltern, so grammar, the word I'm using from Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, this palm is the precise point where the biological labor is forced into a political rebellion. So consider the paradox of laborer's hand in the history of caste. So this is very hand which is essential, but yet it's untouchable. See, nothing can happen without this hand, but still this hand is deemed as untouchable. So we can also recall the poetry of Namdev Dasal. तुमची सनातन दया फॉकलँड रोडच्या भडव्याहून उंच नाही. खरंच तुम्ही आभाळात मांडव घातला नाही. बोलून चालून तुम्ही सामंतशहा, तुम्ही तिजोरीत लॉक केलेला प्रकाश. This is the very first poem of Namdev Dasal from his poetry collection Golpitha. So it is this hand which plows the field. It is this very hand which carves the temple. It is this very hand which is used by Kabir to weave the cloth. And it is this very hand that, according to this Brahminical hegemony, pollutes what it touches. So when we say this earth rests on the rebel's palm, so we are trying to identify three critical transformations. So first, the palm represents a materialistic agency. See, by moving the world from the head of deity, which are called as Sheshnag, to the hand of worker, Annabhau Sathe is arguing that civilization is not a divine gift, but it's an outcome or it's a social product of labor. And in fact, this very laborer is the world builder. That is first one, materialistic agency. Second, this palm is the site of reclaimed dignity. So when Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar cupped his hand to drink the water in Mahad Satyagraha on 20th March 1927, or when Mahatma Jyotirao Phule picked up a pen to write Gulamgiri, so they were in fact performing an act of subaltern alchemy. They took a hand that the world called polluted and revealed to it, or they tried to recall or reclaim its sovereignty. And finally, this very palm represents the synthesis of the tool and the fist. So tool and the fist. It is the only part of human anatomy that can both cradle a tool for production and clench a fist for the protest. So this is the radical genealogy which my title talks about in a very single gesture. So I will try to summit it, what I really want to mean by this title, though I borrow the words from Annabhau. So to sum it is this palm that gripped Shivaji's sword to defend the Rayat or peasantry. It is this palm that held Phule's pen to strike at dogmas when he writes Gulamgiri, Sarvajanik Satya Dharma, or Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharajan's Pavada in 1869, or he writes a lot of other texts. It is this poem that casts Ambedkar's vote for a new republic. And it is this poem that struck Sathe's drum or halgi to wake the masses. So this rebel is simply the laborer who has looked at their own palm and realized that the power to sustain the world is also the power to change it. It's not just sustenance, but it's a type of change, a structural change. So when the great Annabhu Sathe declared that this world is not balanced on the head of mythical serpent, which I called as Shesh Nag, but on the palms of laborers. So he was not just trying to speak poetry. He was committing something known as mythic rupture. He was ripping the power of creation out of the heavens and placing it where it truly belonged. That is, in the calloused, sweating, and the productive hands of the worker. And this was not simply a lineage which is patriarchal or patrilineal, that is from a history of fathers and the sons. This is what this is what we call a radical genealogy. It is in fact, a rhizome. Rhizome means a living network where time does not move in a straight linear fashion, but it's like a circle of fire. Each of our heroes does not just follow the last, they resurrect the spirit of the rebel before them and authorize the rebellion of today. So it's a organic link between each of them, not a continuity. So look at this lineage. It begins with Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, or which I call Shivaji. So he's not a king of the elites, but a person who built Swarajya with the hands of Shudra, Atishudra peasantry or riots. He was the primal rupture, proving that a world could be built by the people, for the people, and of the people. Similarly, centuries later, Jyotira Phule reached back through time. So typically it was around 1869, 1870 when he goes and digs the Samadhi at Raigad and finds it. And then he composes his Chhatrapati Shivaji Raje Bhosle Yansa Pavada, 1869. So he didn't just study Shivaji, he summoned him. Phule calls him not Go Brahman Pratipalak. Phule calls him Kulwadi Bhushan, the pride of the farmers, the pride of the Shudras, Atishudras, the pride of the laborers. And he used that martial grit to sharpen his own intellectual sword against the walls of gender oppression and caste separation as well as superstitions. Then comes Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who picked up that fire and forced it into a shield, and that shield is of law. He took that mythic rupture of the laboring body and turned it into the constitutional locus of our nation. He ensured that the worker who holds up the world is the same citizen who governs it. And finally, in this radical genealogy, we hear the voice of Annabhau Sathe himself. He is the materialistic synthesis. He looks at the grit of Shivaji because Annabhau Sathe also composes a Pavada of Shivaji. Critic of Phule, the vision of Dr. Ambedkar, whom he dedicates his novel Fakira. And he gives us a ultimate truth that the world survives only because we work. And this is all happening in the habitats of Maharashtra, which means Maharashtra is not just a region on a map. It is the very intellectual laboratory of India. It is here that the blueprint for democracy was written in the ink of anti-caste struggles. So Friends, when I speak today, when we speak today, we do not speak alone. We speak with the strength of the sword, with the strength of the pen, with the strength of the law, and lastly, with the strength of the palm. The world is on our shoulders and the future is in our hands. And together, this genealogy proves that the struggle for future is won by those who have the courage to rewrite the past. So, friends, you don't feel that I'm just taking the name of only males. Shivaji, I'm talking about, Phule, I'm talking about, or Ambedkar, I'm talking about, or I'm talking about Sathe. So, Maharashtra has this intellectual tradition since 11th century, starting from Chakradhar Swami, Leela Charitra. Then we have Naneshwar 1275 to 1296. Then we have the legacy of Soirabai. She says that देहासी विटाळ म्हणती सकळ आत्मा तो निर्मळ शुद्ध बुद्ध विटाळ वाचोनी उत्पत्ती नाही कोण देह निर्माण nahi jagi. So this means that menstruation is the most purest form in this world, and the world itself is created from this menstruation cycle. So if the world is created, how we can deem menstruation as impure? That is what Soirabai says. Or Saint Vithabai, she says that तुझी सत्ता आहे देहावरी मज माझ्यावरी तुझी किंचित नाही. So this also she's trying to reclaim the sovereignty of her body. That is also very important. So it has a legacy of women's saints also. That's the legacy of Tukaram. You know, काय करू आता धरुनिया भीड निशंक हे तोंड वाजविले, which Baba Sahib also uses in his newspaper. और देह देवाचे मंदिर जशी उसात साखर तसा देहात ईश्वर जशी दुधामध्ये लोणी तसा देही चक्र पाणी. So when we look at all this radicalism and especially the people which we have selected for this talk, so I try to divide it into three major subsections. So first subsection, which I put it as the theory of counter historiography, or in simple words, history as a battlefield. So in the Phule Shivaji link, I just mentioned in 1869, Phule authored the first Pavada, which we in English call as Ballad, on Shivaji Maharaj. And this was not poetry, but it was a reclamation. He revived the image of Shivaji as Kulwadi Bhushan, and thus Phule snatches Shivaji from British and Brahmanical narratives that had buried this peasant king, or which Brahmanical thought or Brahmanical typology had deemed as Go Brahman Pratipalak. If you see the works of Vishnu Shastri Chiblunkar, or if you see the works of Sabhasad Bakar, or if you see the works of, we can say, Tilak since 19th century, recently a book of Narahar Kurundakar. So I had a copy here. So it's back, which was released in 2025. It also talks about the same thing, the deification of Shivaji Maharaj. So second, the Ambedkar Phule link. So this link, or this organic link, which we're talking about genealogy, in the Ambedkar's text, 1946, who are the Shudras? So it serves as a scientific, academic culmination of Phule's intuitive social theories. So Phule uses the power of Ballad, which was like a social media of that time, and Ambedkar uses the power of bibliography. And then there is, in the same section, the clash of histories, the democratization of sovereignty. So this genealogy charts a radical shift in the location of power. So the sovereignty moved from crown. So crown, the power was in the crown in the times of Shivaji, to community in the times of Phule's social reform via Satyashodak Chळवळ, to citizen using Ambedkar's constitutionalism, and finally to the workers' palm, which talks about Sathe's labor-centric reality. So taking the cue from this, we come to the second section of labor-centric ontology of Sathe. So we need to understand Sathe, which is we have done a very big disservice to him by just looking at his literature. So we need to look beyond his folk literature and engage with the philosophy of the body, which he had put forth in his writings. So when Sathe declares the same, which we had already discussed, that earth rests on the rebel's palm, so it's an assault, or it's a counter current, or it's a uh, questioning of the phallocentric, or questioning of the dominant discourse, which comes from Vedic cosmology. While the Manusmriti, a text which was composed around 2nd century BC to 2nd century AD, it suggests that the world is static, supported by divine Sheshnak. Again, we can find its references in Bhagavad Purana also. But Sathe says that this world is man-made. Second, Sathe underlines the power of labor. So if the world is held by the palm of laborer, and if the laborer possesses the ontological right to change it, so this links directly back to Shivaji's infantry, the palm that gripped the sword in 1950, sorry, not 1650, to defend the commoner. It is the same palm that gripped the pen for Ambedkar to draft the rights of the Magna Carta for the citizen, using the instrument of constitution. Then the third subsection comes as the state versus society and its dialectics. So liberty or liberation in India is a two-half project. So the balancing the structure of the state with the soul of the society, both can't be diverse from each other. So the state for both Shivaji and Ambedkar, it represents a political revolution. So they focused on the hard infrastructure of liberation, in the sense of administration, law, justice, defense. So they built a vessel, or they built an architecture in which the freedom could reside. And second comes society. So for society, we have the architecture designed by Phule and Sathe. They present, or they represent, the cultural revolution. Their battlefield was mind. Their battlefield was art. Their battlefield was household, and their battlefield was streets. So they recognize that a state is only as free as the society which sustains it. So the genealogy proves that the struggle for the future is won by those who have the courage to rewrite the past by visiting it. So after these subsections, I would like to consider each and every figure which I had mentioned, so which comes to the second half of the presentation. So it starts with Shivaji, the person who decolonized the idea of sovereignty, a 15th century concept which came in the Europe. But Shivaji's idea of decolonizing sovereignty, it was a typical idea of rupturing the India's feudal order. So this transition from medieval fragmentation to Swarajya, it was anchored in radical deconstruction of Watandari system. So Watandari was a type of feudal system. So by dismantling these hereditary fiefdoms and replacing them with salaried bureaucracy, Shivaji executed an anti-feudal break that redirected the political loyalty from local intermediaries to the centralized state. And this effectively also ended the systemic exploitation of the peasantry by the private landlords like Deshmukhs, creating a direct fiscal link between cultivator and sovereign. That's why in the Comrade Pansare's book, which is very controversial now in Maharashtra, Shivaji Kon Hota? So he writes that Shivaji ha Raite sa Raja hota. So directly a link between cultivator and sovereign. And this also gives economic stabilization where the necessary resource base was provided to sustain a long-term resistance against the entrenched imperial powers. And complementing this was structural overhaul and move toward what a vernacular statecraft, where language was a very important tool. That's why I, in my presentation, also used Marathi a lot. So this language as a tool was for institutional legitimacy. So by commissioning Raja Vyavhara Kosha, the administration replaced the traditional Persian registers, which was linked with Mughal elite with Marathi. So this was more than a cultural preference, understand this. It was a strategic effort, I feel, to demystify the law and bureaucracy so that they could be understood by common citizens. So by making the state's mechanisms linguistically accessible, so the administration fostered a shared political consciousness that unified the masses against foreign hegemonic influence. And in the realm of security, this Maratha state pioneered, Maratha I'm not using in terms of caste, it pioneered a doctrine of military asymmetry that redefined the nature of power. So rather than competing with the sheer mass of imperial standing armies, Shivaji institutionalized guerrilla warfare and maritime sovereignty as an expression of people's resistance. So he leverages this by the rugged topography of Sayadri or the Western Ghats, which is popularly known, through a sophisticated port network and establishing the first major indigenous navy. And he transforms this geography itself into a force multiplier. And this approach democratized the defense of the realm. So shifting the military burden from mercenary class, which was hired, to a motivated, nationalized military. And finally, the state was held together by protector ethos that functioned as a pragmatic social contract. And this pluralistic approach, which we have discussed, was not just born of idealism, but it was a very calculated tool for state building. And it ensured that the diverse social strata of the Deccan had a vested interest in the survival of Swarajya. So it was not just Swarajya, but also Surajya. And if you see this Surajya, in this Swarajya, there was a synthesis of land reforms, there was a linguistic identity reclamation, there was an inclusive governance, which laid the groundwork for a proto nationalist sovereignty in the Indian subcontinent. So this was how Shivaji. From Shivaji, we then come to Jyotirao Phule. So whenever I think about Phule, I feel that Phule's ideas or Phule's writings or Phule's activism was a type of epistemic insurgency and reconstruction of the subaltern subject. And we need to think Phule beyond social reform. So in the mid 19th century, which was the typical period of Satyashodak movement and Phule, so the mainstream Renaissance in India, so Renaissance in India typically starts from the Bengali Bhadralok. It focused on internal theological adjustments within the elite fold. So you see the works of Rajaram Mohan Roy. So even we say Rajaram Mohan Roy was a social reformer, but still that title of Raja is a feudal title. So Jyotirao Phule initiated a fundamental epistemological rupture. So he recognized that the subjugation of Shudra Atishudra was not mere a failure of social policy, but he feels that it's a kind of mental slavery, a cognitive imprisonment sustained through the monopolization of knowledge and fabrication of sacred myths. And he demolishes that all. If you read his book, Sarvajanik Satya Dharma, if you read his book, Gulamgiri, and today when we examine Phule as an organic intellectual, the term which I borrow from Antonio Gramsci, he pioneered a decolonial methodology over a century before the term en- en- entered the academic lexicon.
Was not there in the class. Yeah, last
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
Yeah,
Anything?
last week
Yeah.
our friend was also not there. She saw the list.
One second. Any problem? I think I can hear some voices.
Yeah, you can hold your questions. We are having the Q&A session at the end, and you can ask
I
the
will.
question.
Yeah.
Please. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
And yeah. And when Phule, we look at Phule, so Phule was not restricted to the habitus of Maharashtra. So we also looked at caste as a global bondage. If you see his seminal work, Gulamgiri, So it represents an early exercise in comparative sociology. So this was a very strategic internationalization of caste. If you see, he dedicates his book to the American Civil War, which began in 1861 till 1865. So framing it not as a domestic cultural idiosyncrasy, but a systemic violation of human dignity, which was comparable to the Atlantic chattel slavery. And he argued that while the latter relied on legal ownership, the former relied on even more insidious ideological ownership. And with the founding of Sathe Samaj in 1873, which was launched as a movement of truth seeking, it functioned as a form of epistemic disobedience. So he dismantled the clerical monopoly on truth. It was an anti-hegemonic project, so hegemony of Brahminism, that prioritized rational inquiry and scientific temperament over ritualistic dogma, which effectively secularized the struggle for social justice. And in fact, it was compounded and added on by educational insurgency, which also served as a pedagogy of oppressed, where Phule's educational project, which he pioneered along with Savitribai Phule, it was not merely about literacy. So it was a pedagogy of the oppressed. So it was set up in a context and habitus of Pune, where education was forbidden fruit for women and lower caste. The school becomes a site of insurgent learning, and Phule identifies literacy as a third eye, a tool for deconditioning the subaltern mind from internalized inferiority imposed by centuries of Brahminical exclusion. And we can recall those famous words, Vidya vina mati geli, mati vina niti geli, niti vina gati geli, gati vina vitta गेली आणि वित्त विना शूद्र खसले आणि एवढे सगळे अनर्थ एका अविद्येने केले. And finally, we must acknowledge also Phule as India's first truly subaltern historian, where he inverts the Aryan invasion theory to construct a counter narrative of indigenous resistance. So, by reframing the Shudras as the original egalitarian owners of the land, Kshatriyas, and Brahmins as foreign invaders, he provides a historical basis for a new, proud subaltern identity. And his work suggests that for the marginalized group to have a future, it must first reclaim its right to interpret its own past. And thus, Mahatma Phule's legacy challenges us as academics, as laypersons, to move beyond armchair reform and engage in this messy, necessary work of dismantling hierarchies of knowledge. And this Satya Shodhan or search for truth remains unfinished as long as subaltern mind remains a site of contestation. And then let's turn to Dr. Ambedkar. So in Dr. Ambedkar, I have put him in the framework of deviant synthesis and social endosmosis. So Ambedkar's intellectual trajectory, which we all know and proudly we reclaim, it's shaped by his encounter with John Dewey. There is a beautiful book by Scott Stroud and his instrumentalism. Did not Ambedkar did not merely adopt deviant concepts, but performed a radical reconstruction to address the specificities of caste system. In fact, today when I was talking of caste in India also, so there is a Senat, Nesfield, Risley, Ketkar, so who had written about the caste, but Ambedkar brings a very radical reconstruction of the caste by including the element of gender, and Darba Mitra has written very beautifully on that. So he conceptualized democracy through a biological social metaphor of social endosmosis. So what does it mean? It means the fluid reciprocal exchange of values across the social boundaries. And he argues that the caste as an impermeable wall, preventing this vital circulation, and thereby it renders the body politic necrotized and incapable of democratic life. And influenced by his next professor, Edwin Seligman, he employed a social razor to strip away the metaphysical justification of caste and it reframes it as a pragmatic economic problem, a division of laborers, rather than mere division of labor. And last but not the least, so the ideal of constitutional morality, which is the ethical guardrail of the republic, which he is inspired from Greek historian Brutus. So his deployment of constitutional morality, he redefines the state's foundation from a purely procedural entity to an ethical one. So he posited that in a society fractured by multiple communal identities, a single person must be a fundamental unit of the constitution. So one person, one vote, one value, his famous dictum. And it was a very radical revolutionary rupture from traditional group-based hierarchies. And he also warned in his very famous speech, The Grammar of Anarchy, that the constitutional morality is not a natural sentiment, but it has to be deliberately and consciously cultivated, requiring constant administrative coordination as well as restraints by the majority to prevent the subversion of institutional spirit by social prejudice. And he very famously quotes in the Constituent Assembly the words of uh, a famous philosopher, where he says that from Harold Lasky's book, The Grammar of Politics, 1926, it is a duty of majority to uphold and protect the rights of minority. And in 1949 address, he also uh, tells us the perils of bhakti. So bhakti in religion is a path to salvation, but bhakti in politics is a road to degradation. And where he says that Mahatmas have come and Mahatmas have gone, but we untouchables are still untouchables. So this hazard of political bhakti as well as legal procedural threshold, which he puts in his speech of Grammar of Anarchy, is very important. And last but not the least, his ideal of Navayana Buddhism, which was an ontological rupture of the political theology. So he defined Dhamma as social justice. He reframed Dhamma as an impersonal, moral, and legal order, and a mere supernatural one or a supernatural religion. So he envisioned a new political theology which merged spiritual liberation with the material annihilation of caste, which we can see in the Bhavis Pratidnya also. And it was a rationalist liberation where stripping away the social scholasticism of Pali canon, he creates a very rationalistic path to awaken the self, where the removal of dukkha was organically linked to the removal of institutionalized inequality or legal slavery. And coming to the final part of Annabhav Sathe, whom we have talked a lot since the start. In fact, we started with Annabhav only. So if you look at his what we say canon of literature, in fact, his novel Fakira, so it stands as a very monumental shift. And Fakira is dedicated to Dr. Ambedkar. So he transformed the protagonist, if you see the Fakira, from a romanticized, outlawed person into a revolutionary figure of Mang or Matang community. And he replaces the Brahminical obsession with the metaphysical stability, with the physical labor of the Shudra and Atishudra as well as women. And in his prose, the soil of Maharashtra is not a spiritual mother, but a site of historical struggle. And he suggests that also stability of any civilization is a continuous, exhausting act of physical creation by those at the bottom, which we saw in his second March speech also, 1958. And in the entire South Asian studies repertoire, Sathe disrupted the rasa theory, the famous Navrasa, and rejected the traditional aesthetics of these rasas. He pioneered a subaltern realism. He documented Vasti or Basti, the slum, or the chawl, with unvarnished grit. So he refused to sanitize the lives of the working class. So in his short stories like Chirag Nagar Chibuta, Kantalili Mansa, the very people, his characters do not seek transcendental moksha. They seek bread and very important dignity. He argued that the raw and the cut up the reality of the Dalit experience, and he captured it with a very honest lens of a fractured society. And when we often discuss public humanities in AC rooms and all, but Sathe lived it through action, especially the Lal Bauta Kalapatan. If you see his tamasha, the traditional folk theatre, which is often dismissed as vulgar, the Shailaja Pai's book is already out, The Vulgarity of Caste, and the Povada, which is linked with heroic ballad. He infused them with Marxist consciousness as well as Ambedkarite vision. By reclaiming the Vaganatya folk play, he turned the stage into a classroom. He understood that if revolution does not speak in the rhythmic cadence of the dhulki, it remains a colonial import. And he proved that the culture which is deemed as low is a most potent apparatus or instrument for mass mobilization. And finally, Sathe didn't just limit himself to Maharashtra or Sayukta Maharashtra Chalwal or also the movement for India, but he establishes himself as a global intellectual. In 1943, he has written a very beautiful Povada known as Battle of Stalingrad or Stalingrad's of Povada in Marathi. He did not see a distant European conflict. He saw a mirror. By singing of the Red Army in the heart of Maharashtra, he positioned the Dalit struggle with the global socialist project. And he understood that the liberation of Bahushan was linked to the global defeat of fascism. And as we now all we are sitting here in US, in India, when we deliberate on the future of social justice, and when we look at Sathe, a man who wrote about 35 novels, hundreds of stories, and despite having no formal schooling, he challenged us to move beyond the myth of the serpent, where we started our talk. And he acknowledges the palms of the labor. He acknowledges the song of the revolution. And he reminds us that the most profound scholarship is that which echoes the heartbeat of a shramik, a worker. Jai Bhim, Jai Maharashtra, and Namo Buddha. Thank you.
Thank
So
you,
this is
Nikhil.
yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks for your insightful lecture on your interpretation of the palm, especially
Yeah.
how basically it reflects or what it means uh, reference to our four great personalities from Bahujan communities to hold the sword for Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, to establish a rule of riots or the common man, what we call, and pain for Jyotiba Phule, whose writings has inspired communities from Shudra and Dalit communities, and Baba Sahib giving us the constitution and literary work of Annabhau Sathe and his labor movements. So thank you very much, and I believe the palms of the Bahujan committee are in fact responsible for development of the nation. So we will switch over to the Q&A session to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to participate and that we stay within our allocated time frame. I kindly ask for your cooperation in keeping discussion concise and focused. If the conversation begins to prolong, I may need to gently steer it back on track or move forward to accommodate everyone's time. Thank you for your understanding and cooperation. Before I begin with Q&A, I would like to speak about the Awaken, the BHG digital magazine. The Awaken is a Boston Study Group's digital magazine which provides a platform for all Ambedkarites in the diaspora to share their stories, thoughts, views, and talent to enhance the Ambedkarite movements. We are looking forward to literary contributions for our future issues from Ambedkarite across the globe, including our young Ambedkarites. So please visit our website www.bostonstudygroup.org or email us at contact@bostonstudygroup.org for future information. So with that, we are open for the Q&A session. So please raise your hand if you have any questions. In case you want to just put your questions in the chat box, please do so. So before we go into the Q&A session, I would like to ask Nikhil, somewhere I read that the Annabhav Swate's quote is the earth that does not rest on the head of the Sheshanag, but it is safe in the hands of the Dalit, the farmers, and the workers.
Yes, sir.
And but in the beginning, when you quoted, you just said it is safe in the hands of the workers. Is there any specific reason you omitted Dalits and the farmers, or whether I am having the wrong quote here?
Yeah. Sir, he talks only about laborers, but when we now interpret it, because when we see the entire repertoire of Annabhav Sathe, so laborers were, when he works in the habitats of Matunga labor camp and the Mumbai and Sayukta Maharashtra Chळवळ. So what Annabhav Sathe is always misread or misinterpreted as laborers is only laborers from the perspective of class. Because for Annabhav Sathe, laborers is not just labor as a distinct class category, but it is laborers, Shudras, Atishudras, as well as women also. So when he quotes that in the 2nd March 1958, he talks only about the workers. So that is how it comes.
Okay.
So that's why I quoted it, and then I tried to explain it using women, Shudra, Atishudras also.
Okay, and but subsequently, someone added these words of the Dalits and the other
Yes,
category of the people in that one. Okay,
yes.
great, thanks. And another thing I noted that, or I read that Annabhav Sathe was basically disenchanted with the communism at the last phase of the life. Because he considered that it is mostly controlled by the so-called upper caste people, and especially the Brahmins. What is your take on this one?
Yeah. Thank you, sir, for asking these questions. Some of these very important existential questions on Annabhav Sathe's. In fact, in the last phase of his life, I am answering in my doctoral dissertation where I have one chapter on Annabhav Sathe. So, sir, there are theories like that. And there is a very brilliant book just came 2 years ago by Mahadev Phule on Annabhav Sathe. So he says that Annabhav Sathe understood the limitations of communist movement, but he was not very ready to forego that movement also. And till the last breath also, he has his affinity with our Comrade Dange also. Even in his Maza Russia's Pravas, he dedicates that book to Comrade Dange. But yes, there is also one reality, and this is also a fact that Annabhav Sathe, in his last years of his life, turned to Buddhism also. So he has written a very beautiful katha or a story, short story known as Buddhachi Shappat. So yes, disillusionment was there. The limitations were known, but there is not proper per se proof that Annabhav Sathe was ready to leave the movement. Also, yes, he understood the limitations of the movement. But yes, he was also attracted to the Ambedkarite movement, one also, and second, he ultimately took refuge in Buddha. That is two. That is what we have known. And rest, there are a lot of speculations on Annabhav Sathe, but factually there is no material evidence that he himself says like that. So that's why I don't want to put that into a very controversial or a very definite tone. Yes, sir, it was done. So whatever the available material, it was there. So I tried to answer that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Venkat,
Yes.
you have the question? Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sanjay ji. Okay, Nikhil ji, it was a very good lecture, and
Thank you, sir.
thank you very much. So, yeah, I mean, you see, people like us put Chhatrapati Shivaji in the line of genealogy of, Mahatma Phule, Baba Sahib Ambedkar, and the contradictory, what do you call, the latest Hindutva forces trying to co-opt him and project him as a Hindu king and anti-Muslim. Let him be at least claim Hindu king, but they are very, very vocally promoting him as a anti-Muslim, which is completely farther from truth. In fact, the Brahmins even didn't want to do his whatever Raj, what do you call
Coronation
it,
Abhishek.
ceremony.
coronation, right?
Yeah.
So how blatant lies they are spreading. I mean, it's a known history. It's not Vedas, it's not Ramayana, it's not Purana. It is
Mm.
recent history. There, so I think we have I mean, you can little bit highlight how Chhatrapati Shivaji, as a Shudra king, more egalitarian, he brought some reforms in all that, right? And he was
Mm.
also never an ounce of. There were so many Muslims fought for his army, and he was very secular, all that. So, how do we
Yeah.
counter this narrative and try to make it, I mean, truth, right? I mean, we need the truth. I mean, if somebody did like that, Peshwas, okay, let
Mm.
them own it.
Mm.
Who cares? Rajputs, some of the Rajputs were like that, okay, but not Chhatrapati Shivaji, okay.
Mhm.
So
Mm.
how, I mean, what are your thoughts? You guys have a lot of work to do to counter this in the intellectual,
Yeah.
literary
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my comment
Yeah.
question, please. Yeah, respond.
Yeah. Thank you, sir, for asking such an insightful and very important question. So I'm also grappling with this question only. First, there is one of my articles in Indian Express. If you just Google my name and put Shivaji, so I'd
Okay.
written there is an article in Indian Express. It just came, I think, 5-6 days ago, because there is a
Mhm.
controversy going on in Maharashtra. So whatever you are asked, I try to answer that.
Yeah,
Another
yeah.
deification of Shivaji. And
Sure.
specifically to answer your question also, second, what I'm trying to do with Shivaji is that I'm writing a book on Shivaji and trying to reclaim the reigns of Shivaji into a very rationalist fold. And
Mm,
now,
good.
so Shivaji, I'm writing from the perspective of, we can say, Phule. Shivaji from the perspective of Shatashudak movement, Dinkar Rao Zawalkar, Keshav Rao Zede, which you know that na Deshache Dushman, that controversy happened, where Ambedkar also defended that case in 1925. Then Shivaji
Mhm.
from the perspective of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and the episode which also Sanjay sir was talking about, it's in 1946 book of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who were the Shuzaras, that coronation
Right.
ceremony which happened also.
Yeah.
And also, just to add something more, is that Shivaji underwent one more coronation in Tantric
Mm.
Buddhism also.
Oh,
It was
okay.
a mixture of Buddhism and Shaivism also, Tantric Buddhism,
Wow.
which originated around 6th century AD in
Okay.
Ratnagiri.
Mm.
Yeah. And then Shivaji from the perspective of Prabodhankar Thackeray also. If you, the grandfather of Uddhav Thackeray, or the father of Bal Thackeray also. So he has also written a book known as Dagalbash Shivaji. And lastly, Shivaji also appears in Annabhav Sathe's Pavada also. And
Mm.
other references are Sharad Joshi is there. And to answer your questions, we need to understand how the Shivaji or how Shivaji was constructed. So in my lecture also, I try to say that. So here it was paucity of time also.
Right,
So
right, right.
what are the references of Shivaji which I studied for preparation of this lecture? So one was Krishnaji Anant Sabhasad Bakar, which I mentioned, Sabhasad Bakar. Then there is a book by G.S. Sardesai. Then there is a book by H.S. Sardesai. Both are different. G.S. Sardesai has 9 volumes on Shivaji, but it has a lot of uh, loopholes also. Then there is a book by Jadunath Sarkar, but that is not available in Marathi. And there is also a lot of, we can say, lacunas of how he has treated the Marathi, or the, what we say, the Modi Lipi also. And then there is D.V. Kale, book on Shivaji, which is little bit factually, or uh, best among them all in Marathi. And there is a book by Dr. Balkrishna also. And before this lecture, also I had some discussions with Professor Audrey Truskey. If you know her, she teaches in Rutgers University, and she's written a very fantastic book known as Aurangzeb, The Man and the Myth.
Yeah, yeah,
So
I
now,
know
sir,
about the book.
yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
became very
yeah, yeah, yeah,
controversial. Yeah, yeah.
very controversial.
Yeah.
So the thing is that, sir, now, but after all these things, now how we look at Shivaji, the problem is that Narahar Kurundakar, I think the book, I will just like to show you. See, this is 2020. I also mentioned here. This is the book.
Mm.
Okay. So
Mm.
it just came last year, 2025. So Narahara Kurundakar says that there has been a deification of Shivaji. Deification.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
when Shivaji is deified, and before Phule, this Vishnu Shastri Chipulunkar, which I mentioned, or this Tilak, so they try to defy the Shivaji and put it on pedestal. So whenever you put any person on the realm of divinity, you require an intermediate
Yeah,
in between. And you know that who those intermediaries are there. And the intermediary's major task is what? Make that figure non-responsive, non-responsible, non-accessible, and act as an interpreter. So whatever these terms and lexicons which are now attached to Shivaji, Go Brahman, Pratipalak, anti-Muslim and all, these are not any Shivaji's words, which are not found
Exactly.
anywhere. So the
Yeah,
Shivaji himself was Rayat Ka Raja. Shivaji was Kulwadi Bhushan, which says that it's an act of reclamation by Jyotirao Govindrao Phule, which it does that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
if you see the composition of the army, it has Mahars, Matangs, Shudras, Ati Shudras. In fact, Muslims also were in majority numbers in Shivaji. So
yes,
what is happening is what political appropriation of Shivaji uh,
yeah,
by the Brahmanical historians, which they try to again what we try to defy him, do that, which is what happening in Maharashtra also, where they say that Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj and all. Shivaji
mm,
was a human being, and
I
Shivaji was a human being. Let's try to analyze him with his follies. And if we really go into now, we can at least this is our podium. If we speak, we try to see that. So we had to understand Shivaji in his habitus from 1630 to 1680, which was his lifespan. So Shivaji has a lot of loopholes also. Shivaji is not a perfect figure, in fact,
yeah, any
isn't it?
human
So
being. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's a
right. Yeah,
human being. He
yeah,
committed a lot of follies also. And so he has a lot of lacunas also. He's a lot of military strategy. So when we try to understand Shivaji, I use the term is what Shivaji's sovereignty is pooled. So in that 18th, in this 17th, 18th century, where the sovereignty was derived from the king or the divinity, what Shivaji does is that he tries to reclaim sovereignty from the people. People make him sovereign, not himself. That is what
got
is important. We need to understand Shivaji from that subaltern perspective. We need to understand from the margins what Shivaji was. Matlab, he didn't inherit anything. He created his own, and his creation was not just a hegemonic creation, it was a pooled creation. People came and supported him. That is more important. And our efforts should be democratizing Shivaji. Our efforts is to look at Shivaji from multiple paradigms or multiple standpoints, which Shivaji himself invites us. So yeah, so the major problem is what deification. So deification or a sovereign person. When we look at Shivaji as a person, then yeah, all this whatever this worker which these people put it, you know, all these multiple Chhatrapatis or whatever this all honorifics they put it, they all strip it down, and then you get a Shivaji, a rational Shivaji who can commit mistakes, who can also become great. So this is nothing but what Baba Sahib Ambedkar does with Buddha, na? In his Buddha and his Dhamma.
yeah, yeah.
Strips all the divination. That is what we have to do. So we already have an Ambedkarite pedagogy, how to look at Shivaji. This is what I'm trying to attempting as a scholarly response to whatever is happening around me.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, that's good. Thank you very much. And just to
Yes.
just not extend the discussion, but quick fact, isn't it Mahatma Phule ji actually found his tomb and he made him
Yes.
more, popular mainstream ownership, right? That's happened, right? I mean, until
That's
then,
right.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
So
good, good.
1869 Mahatma Phule goes and
Yeah,
flies in Samadhi and
yeah.
he brings it out. But the thing
Mm.
is that the deification of Shivaji or making him more popular as a god, you know,
That
like
is bad.
in parallel period, that is
Yeah,
done by this
correct.
our this Tilak,
Tilak.
Bal Gangadhar
Tilak.
Tilak.
Oh,
Yeah,
Tilak
Yeah.
also has done. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So he
That I didn't
already
know. Okay, okay, okay. Got it.
so he plagiarizes.
Got
He does a plagiarism.
it. Wow. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, got it.
It's a
Thank you.
beautiful book, sir. You should read of
Mm,
Richard Cashman, how this thing happened. Richard Cashman's book is there.
Richard Cashman. Okay, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? I don't see any questions in the chat box. I'm not sure whether they are allowed to put the chat. But in case not, you can raise your hand if you have any questions. If not, then we can end the sessions. I will give just 30 more seconds. Okay, Sagar.
I think Sagar and
Sagar,
Swaroop.
please unmute yourself and ask questions, and then we will have Swaroop.
Okay. Hi, Nikhil.
Hi.
I lost in between during your lecture. Is there any chance we can get these records?
It is available on the YouTube. So it is live streaming on the YouTube now. So
Great.
you can
Thank
go
you,
Yeah,
through
sir.
the
you have a
recordings.
Boston study group as a channel, Ambedkar lecture series. You can find all the previous lectures also. Should be
Okay.
there.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, Swarup.
Hello, Nikhil. It was a nice lecture. It's just a general question. So, is there any existence or relation of Ramdas Swami as a guru to the Shivaji, or is just a Brahmanical makeup? Because I have read about it. Tukaram Maharaj was there at that time, but no any evidence of Ramdas.
Sir, till 1672, there is no evidence of Shivaji and Ramdas meeting, or Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj and Ramdas meeting. And as you say, it's as there are no documents available, and Brahminical sources or the hagiographical sources which celebrate Shivaji, which are basically the Brahminical narratives, they raise to the status that Shivaji met Ramdas or something, or Ramdas guided. It's factually, historically inaccurate. And again, I'm talking from this again. This Narahar Kurundakar also is there. Then I'm talking from the book of Kale also. I'm talking from the book of Jadunath Sarkar also. And yeah, there are no sources where they both met or something, and that figure is factually wrong, where they show that Ramdas Swami showing like this, Shivaji Maharaj sitting. Never ever these things happened. Never ever these things happened. That's it. He was one among the person who regarded himself as saints. There are a lot of Babas which we see out, isn't it? And all Babas required the state patronage. Maybe Shivaji Maharaj must have given something, but that also is not found. Even if we give a benefit of doubt, but never ever he met him also. There are no references also of that. I'm talking from the latest reference, which is based on Persian sources also. Yeah. It's a Brahminical.
I read that means Shivaji Maharaj gave some donations and all this like he gave to anyone else at that time.
Absolutely.
And yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. It is not something that because he's a Ramdas, that's why he gave. He gave to many. And another thing I read that they met at very fag end of the Shivaji Maharaj life. So he doesn't have any influence on any of the Shivaji Maharaj, whatever he did in his lifetime, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So Venkat, you are next. Please unmute yourself.
No, Venkat.
I'm Venkat Reddy.
The other Venkat, yeah.
It was very enlightening to listen, Nikhil.
Thank you.
I work for children of child rights. I want one question is it comparable when Marx said workers of world unite, and when you said in the palm, the laborers, the world is in the palm of laborers. Can we compare that? And second question, quick question is, what is your advice to present leadership? What do they do? The leadership of mass, they pretext they are representing the marginalized, but not. Any one advice? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just thank you. Sorry to interrupt, but Venkat Reddy
please.
works for is one of the very, very well-known child, labor, anti-child labor activist running this MBF Foundation, which has done a marvelous job of, very, very big contribution they have done. So Venkat Reddy leading that mission. Thank you, Venkat Reddy Garu, for joining. Yeah. Go ahead, Nikhil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nikhil,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Thank you. So when I say labor, I again go back to the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, where Ambedkar says that, so when Marx says, workers of the world unite. So Baba Sahib Ambedkar says that in India, it can't happen, or Marx theories can be reified here, because in India, there is caste in class and class in caste. There is caste in caste and caste in class. So when we say workers of the world unite, so let's take from Meena Menon's book, Many Voices, Many Mutinies. She talks about mill workers in Mumbai. So when I say to a mill workers, let's unite. So in that there are Mahars which unite differently, Matangs unite differently, Shannopuli Marathas unite differently, and other subcastes which unite differently. So that can't happen in context of India. But when I talk about Annabhau Sathe, it's in the palm. So for I knew that this question is going to come. So that's why for 10 minutes, I tried to elaborate what is the meaning of the palm for me. And the labor in context of India is not in terms of class. So this was what always, when we read Ambedkar's 1916 text, caste in India, where they say that Ambedkar says that caste is an enclosed class. So it is not a meaning per se as class. So I'm talking in the context of labor, that laboring bodies in India are the untouchable Shudra, Ati Shudra. And I'm adding one more. It's a gendered bodies, which later was more qualified by Annabhu also at the fag end of his life. I'm talking in 1958, and also by Namdev Dasal also. If you read his poetry also, so they take the lineage of that. So for me, the labor, or how I interpret the labor for Annabhu, after reading all his 35 novels and all his short stories and all his pavadas and all his Vaganatyas, I feel that Annabhu Sathe talks about labor from the context of Shudra, Ati Shudra, and gendered categories. So why I say gender? Because his novel is also there called Chitra also. So Chitra is also very important, which looks at the Mumbai, or which looks at the issue of, or the question of labor from the perspective of women. So labor is not per se labor in terms of class category or economically weaker sections. It's gender, it's Shudra, Ati Shudra, caste, and class. So I'm talking in terms of hyphenation. This is one. And second, the question which you would ask, sir, I will share to sir. I shared with Sanjay sir also. 2 days ago, my interview was taken by Sakal newspaper in Maharashtra. So I had written adequately about the political leadership and those who claim to represent the Dalits and what they are doing there. So I talked about the Manuvaradi Vritti, when I talked about caste and class, when you transcend your class, you lose your consciousness, as Marx also says that. And I'm talking of qualified Marx. Marx also says that. And you become the samarthak, है ना? मनुवाद्याचे समर्थक तुम्ही बनून जातात जेव्हा तुम्ही त्या उच्च पदावर घेतात. And I don't fear any people, those who are sitting now. So take example of Sanjay Shirsat. He's an MLA and he's the Minister of Social Justice also. If you see his work in Maharashtra, it's absolutely nonsense. It's an absolutely damning and against the principles of Ambedkar. And these people have got elected on scheduled caste seat, 1932 Pact, Pune Pact. These people invoke the name of Ambedkar, and the things which they do are all anti-Ambedkar, all against the Dalits, tribals, and I'm talking all Vanchit, Shoshit, and Bahujan identity. So that interview, if you would ping me later, I would again send it to you. So you will get a more clarity. I spoke there daringly, but they told that they couldn't add the names. But without taking names, everything is very clarified there too. So this is what my answer was to the political establishment.
Thank you, Nikhil. Thank you. It was nice. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't see any more questions. Raise hand. Anyone has any questions? Okay, we have Arif, and then we have Lalita. Arif, go ahead, please. Arif is our board director. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you. Soon to be Dr. Adsule. All the best for PhD. Also, thank you for the research you're doing. So I just wanted to kind of hear from you about your ideas around appropriate.
Sir, I think your voice is gone.
Okay, I believe Arif.
Then there's a movie, but who recently came, the Chhawa movie, and it was also a big hit in Maharashtra along with other places. Did you see any sort of people trying to build a counter narrative against that again presenting the whole Shivaji and his empire's fight with Mughal, pitching it as a Muslim Hindu fight? Was there any attempt to build like a counter narrative, or was it any successful at all? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, Arif sir. Thank you for asking this very insightful question. So first of all, I myself built an anti-narrative. I wrote an article in Sabrang Media, which is written by Tista Setalwad, because no media was ready to publish that against Chhawa. So I wrote against that movie because it's a hagiographical movie and completely non-factual movie, completely ill-conceived movie, completely rhetoric movie of the current political dispensation. So myself, if you just put my name and Google me and put Sabrang Media, I already wrote that. And in fact, also the riots happened in Aurangabad also, which is now renamed as Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar, regarding the Chhawa movie one. And second, I just, to continuity of the first question who asked, it's because of the deification of Shivaji also and Shambhaji also. So whenever these people talk with me, I tell them that who led Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj to get captured? Who were the informants to the Aurangzeb? One. Second, if you love Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj so much, and as Marathas were very well versed in Ganimi Kawa, it's a guerrilla tactics, why there was not a single effort to rescue Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj? And third, I always feel that we need to understand that time, space, and place. See, we need not to paint it as a Hindu versus Muslims for a thing. And if you, as I mentioned about Audrey Truske's book only. So Audrey Truske writes that there were more Hindus in the administration of Aurangzeb than the Akbar, which the rhetoric is good Muslim, bad Muslim, or good king and bad king. That is how it is there. So we need to reclaim the Shivaji as well as Shambhaji in a very rational and pragmatic manner, which I told that I'm trying to attempt that by writing a book on Shivaji. One, this is what I'm trying to do. And two, there are a lot of responses. In fact, now what happened in Buldana, I mentioned, I wrote an article in Indian Express. You can Google my name and put Indian Express, you will get that article. So trying to build a Shivaji, which was really secular. Secular, I'm not borrowing the modern term of 15th century or enlightenment wala rationalism. Secularism is in that context. So you can practice your religion per se in the Indian context, but you will be very neutral in the religious matter outside, which Shivaji was always there. And so we need to look at that idea of secularism of the medieval period where Shivaji was there too. This is what I feel. Yeah. And Chava to sir, and I always feel that the movie, if it becomes hit, na, people say, I always feel that people get the government they deserve. And one of my faculties used to say that people get the movies they deserve. So if your society itself is has degraded so much, so that is what the reflection happens in the movies also.
Yes.
That is what has happened in context of Maharashtra also and in context of India also. So we need to put a revolution is needed, as Baba Saheb Ambedkar talks. Revolution and counter revolution. So counter revolution started, but there is crest and trough. Na? So even if it's crest, it will come down. So we need to. So Boston study series. We are all fighting our own battles. As you also asked a question, it's also a freedom of speech and expression. You're trying to reclaim that thought also. It's a type of. This is how little drops make mighty oceans. This is what I feel. How we can fight against these tendencies of these hagiographic tendencies.
Thank you very much. Just to clarify, I believe if my knowledge is correct, almost all those people in Mughal administration were almost all upper caste, mostly Brahmins, right? Yeah.
Hey, Lalita, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Hello.
Ask your question.
My question is that I'm not Marathi, तो मेरा ये मानना है कि मराठी पीपल जो है वो शिवाजी के जो वर्क है या उनका जो इतना भी काम रहा है उसको बहुत ज्यादा रोमांटिसाइज कर दिखाते हैं कि शिवाजी ने ये किया है वो किया है ना, जबकि ईच एंड एवरी किंग, जैसे मैं राजस्थान से हूँ तो महाराणा प्रताप वगैरह, उन्होंने जितने भी किंग्स रहे हैं अब तक, उन्होंने सिर्फ अपनी डायनेस्टी के लिए वर्क किया है, अपनी पर्सनल ग्रोथ के लिए वर्क किया है, ये मानना है। तो फिर मराठी पीपल ऐसा क्यों सोचते हैं कि महाराष्ट्र की जो भी आइडेंटिटी है वो शिवाजी के इर्द गिर्द घूमती है, जबकि राजस्थान में तो बहुत सारे राजा रहे हैं, हम राजस्थानी ऐसा नहीं सोचते हैं। तो इस बारे में आपका क्या, क्योंकि शिवसेना हुई या फिर राजस्थान में मराठी बहुत सारे पीपल्स को जानती हूँ, उनका ये नारा ही होता है जय महाराष्ट्र जय शिवाजी, दिस काइंड ऑफ थिंग। तो ये इतना क्यों है? हाँ, ये इतना क्यों है सर? निखिल सर आपसे।
थैंक यू ललिता मैम, थैंक यू। आपने हिंदी में क्वेश्चन पूछा। सबसे पहले जो महाराष्ट्र धर्म या महाराष्ट्र की जो संकल्प,
Nikhil, if you can answer in English, that will be better, because most of the speaker also.
Okay. So I will try to.
Okay. Yeah.
I would try to answer in English. So as she was asking that why people romanticize Shivaji too much, and especially the people from Maharashtra. So Lalita ma'am, I would try to a little bit qualify the question. It's not all the people from Maharashtra who romanticize Shivaji. So I just talked in the earlier of one of my questions that there are two Shivajis in my article also talked about. One is a deified Shivaji, one is a rational Shivaji. So the people or the Shudra, Ati Shudra and Bahushans who believe in the idea of rational Shivaji, they don't defy him. Let's take an example, a very brilliant example of Dr. Ambedkar. Dr. Ambedkar and his book, Who Are the Shudras? So Ambedkar also points out the lacunas in Shivaji. Ambedkar himself asks the question, what is the need of coronation? One. Two, there are other books, if we just try to see our Mahatma Phule's, which I mentioned, 1869, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharajansa Povada, where he tries to rescue Shivaji from the other lot who had defied the Shivaji or who talk about Jai Bhavani, Jai Shivaji. In fact, in my one of the in my lecture earlier also talked about Shivaji I'm trying to rescue him from the Bhavani sword, and Shivaji I'm trying to see as a pooled sovereign. So why Shivaji is, see, there is a problem in deification. in fact, in deification of Ambedkar also it happened, where Ambedkar also won. So what has happened is that the people who have met, maybe I probably think that they have deified Shivaji. They're trying to put Shivaji in the realm of sentiments, and it's nothing but entirely political act of trying to cash upon the people's sentiment or love, isn't it? So they're trying to do that. So that is again problematic, which I feel. And why Shivaji is revered? I'm not talking about deified. Why Shivaji is revered? Because Shivaji was the founder of the conceptual category known as Swarajya. And Shivaji was the pioneer of something which is known as Maharashtra Dharma. Okay, and I didn't put a presentation here, and you can see that so it was the inspiration of Shivaji, later carried on by Marathas. Marathas, I'm not talking in context of caste. Maratha is a very secular, it's a linguistic category where the so-called conceptual understanding or the tangible redrawal of boundaries of Maharashtra today came. So which is very different from Maharana Pratap, because because in your Rajputana area there were different types of gharanas there, isn't it? So there was a Sisodia gharana, there is Chittorgarh, there is Mewar, there is Marwad in Madhya Pradesh. So this didn't happen in context of Maharashtra. So Maharashtra Dharma, the idea of Maharashtra begins with Shivaji. That's why Maharashtra is always equated with Shivaji. And Jai Bhavani, Jai Shivaji, or Jai Maharashtra, Jai Shivaji, it's that what we say, it's a culmination of that. Okay, so it's not per se very deification, but people have defied that is a problem. Na? That's why I quoted Ambedkar, isn't it? Where bhakti in religion is a path to salvation, but bhakti in politics is a road to degradation. And because of the sentimentality, it has eroded and degraded what is happening in Buldana or in the entire Maharashtra. Where there is a controversy, you could read on Comrade Govind Pansare's book, Shivaji Kon Hota. Why you said Shivaji? Why didn't you say Chhatrapati, Shivaji, Maharaj, and Raja, and all those things? This is what has happened. This is what I feel.
Thank you, Nikhil. So I think we are at the end of our Q&A sessions. So the Boston Study Group strives to engage in meaningful discussion that inspire positive change in our society. Whether you are a scholar, activist, student, or concerned citizen, your presence and participations are invaluable in furthering Dr. Ambedkar's vision of a more just and equitable and inclusive world. On behalf of our group, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude for your participation in today's Ambedkar lecture series. We hope that the knowledge shared during the lecture has inspired you. If you have any questions or need additional information about the lecture series and also about the Awaken PhD Digital Magazine, please contact us at bostonstudygroup.org. And thanks again, Nikhil, for very enchanting speech.
Thank you, sir.
Basically, we are in contact since long, and I'm glad that we had you as our speaker. So we are looking forward to welcoming you all for our future events. Thank you once again, and have a wonderful day or the good night. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent question. Thank you.
Thank you.